So the healthcare sector has been a fascinating sector for many years. It's obviously a sector that's got structural growth. And it's a sector, if you look at its performance in the Australian market over the last decade, it's outperformed in most years. And as I touched on earlier, there's a number of unique, interesting companies that are really well positioned within their particular niche industry that they compete in. But there are some challenges now for the healthcare sector that we haven't seen in quite some time. So the first one is that there's some regulatory risks and challenges with the new administration within the US. And we expect there's probably going to be more focus on healthcare budgets. So that makes us a little bit cautious, and you want to be careful around which businesses are most exposed. So we'd highlight that as one concern we haven't really had to worry that much about over the last few years. The second one is that we're also seeing foreign currency as being more of an issue now. We've seen the strength in the Australian dollar. The Australian dollar today is 78 cents against the US. And it certainly looks as though over the course of 2021, as though there's going to be upward pressure on the Australian dollar. So if you generate most of your earnings in US dollars, for instance, that's obviously going to be a bit of a headwind to your particular earnings stream. So those are the two things that kind of make us a little bit more cautious. A lot of these stocks perform well, particularly in the early stages of 2020. And we just think this year is probably a year it's going to be tougher for some of these healthcare names. So CSL is a stock that we've owned in our portfolio for quite some time. And I would say for the first time in many years, there are more question marks next to different parts of their business. So right now we know, for instance, that blood plasma collections in the US have been impacted by the pandemic. So obviously, because of lockdown restrictions around movement, we've seen that they've had less donors go into their collection centres within the US. So that's one issue that's going to hurt earnings, we think, over the next probably 12 to 18 months. But that's more of a temporary issue. What we are seeing is that there's more competition emerging in different parts of their business. So for instance, in the blood plasma market, there's a new series of products which is going to, we think, get launched over the next 2 or 3 years, which could take market share in different elements of their end market. So that gives us a little bit more pause for concern. And we think that this is a company that's generated very strong earnings growth for quite a long period of time, and we see that slowing down as a result of all of these factors. So that just gives us more caution than we've had in CSL for quite some time. So we're always looking to understand what is the unique competitive position that a business has. And are they improving that competitive position, or is it coming under some threat? And with CSL, we do see some threats. But I'd contrast that with a company like ResMed, where again, it's a stock we've owned in our portfolio for quite some time. We've made good money out of. And I would say this is a business that's only strengthening its competitive position. If you think about how data's now been used to diagnose, treat sleep apnea, build a relationship between a patient, ResMed as a provider, and through to the medical system, that's now locking more people into their ecosystem, if you want to think about it that way. So what's happening there is that market share, because of what ResMed are doing and also what their competitor Philips are doing, is that you are seeing that's a market structure that's changing, and the two dominant players are winning from the other players. So, that's a good example of the sort of business that we're looking for, to say it's got a strong competitive position today, but we can see factors that are actually improving that over time. So we think that translates into higher growth and more durable growth over time.